Hey, I know it's pretty fucking hilarious for me to come here at this point in time. After spending weeks and weeks and weeks away from making content. But I'm pretty sure that any of you would be more than pleased, is probably the best way of saying it, to have me ramble on for a little bit of time. So you can forget about your worries and whatever the fuck's keeping you up at night and just zone out to talking to me. Wait, what? Fuck, that doesn't make any sense. Zone out to me talking to you. So, here we go. I'm gonna tell a story, and this is just one of those things where I have characters coming from my head, and if anything doesn't make sense, it's because it's just going to be on the fly. So, there was once a boy named Ronald, and if I mess up the characters' names, it's just because I'm going to be having to fucking go back to all of them. So there was a boy named Ronald. Not Ronald McDonald. Don't go there. But he lived a solemn life, kind of deep in the forest. He got brought up by his father as a hunter, but Ronald didn't really go out too much. He much preferred staying in, waiting for his dad to come home, and usually just partaking in the food side of everything. So I can kind of relate to Ronald. One day, when Ronald's dad went to go for a hunt, Ronald waited and waited, and it started to get a little bit longer than Ronald would have expected. Or it's more that his dad usually came home as the sun came down, so he was always expecting to get his tummy full at that point on whatever his dad may have caught, or whatever his dad may have picked, because it was either he had a good hunt and he was able to catch a deer, or maybe a rabbit, depending on the traps that he set up the day before, or he was able to just kind of go around picking some mushrooms, not the poisonous kind or the magic kind, just the kind that fills your stomach up and made a very, very splendid soup. But tonight was different. Tonight, Ronald waited and waited, and his stomach rumbled and rumbled, and the sun went down, and Ronald got curious. There was like a bit of fear, but it was more curiosity than anything, because he saw his dad as this big, giant, hunting hero that was always able to bring food home for him. And the longer he waited, the kind of curiosity turned more into fear, because it was getting around to the time when him and his dad started to go to sleep. So, Ronald set out into the woods. It was unusual for him, because the only time he ever really went out to the woods was when his dad needed some help setting up some traps, or when he needed to go get some wood for the fire. But Ronald got his big coat on and packed some things for a walk, because it was starting to get to around winter time, and set off into the woods. He grew up in these woods, mind you, so he knew them like the back of your hand, which is always a weird analogy, because I'm pretty sure that I know the front of my hand better than the back of my hand, and who even really looks at their hands anyway. But as he set off, he started to go down the usual routes that his dad took, and checked out all the traps. They hadn't caught anything. They were just sitting there. He was hoping that they would have been triggered, because then it would have at least given him some idea of where his dad would have gone. But as he started going deeper and deeper into the forest, it started to seem more and more unusual. And I mean unusual in the sense that he didn't recognize where he was anymore. And as he started to realise that as well, before he knew it, Ronald was lost, deep in the dark forest. And of course, the first reaction he had was just shout for his dad. And his name was McDonald, so Ronald was shouting McDonald into the dark forest. And to no surprise, to me of course, because I'm telling the story, there was no response. So Ronald got some wood, made a little fire, because he realised that venturing any deeper was only going to make him more and more confused, and sat down, lit the fire, and waited for morning. And as he was slowly falling asleep, he had a little bump in the night, or more of a cracking of a twig from the surrounding forest around him, which kept him up. Because at first he was thinking it was a giant bear, and then he shut that thought out of his mind, considering there's no bears in this forest. There have never been bears, and I don't think there'd be any bears starting now just because he thought of them. So he was just shrugging it off as it's probably a rabbit, maybe a deer, but it'd be a bit of a shame if a deer came at the night and took him out, but that was unlikely, because if they saw him, they'd go running. It's somebody that walks on two legs, they'd think. So he closed his eyes again and tried to get to sleep. As the night continued through, he started to get more and more twitchy. He started to hear everything around him, and this caused him to just constantly snooze and lower his head, and then just be like, what's that? As you can tell, Ronald is the epitome of curiosity, may or may not kill the cat. But as he eventually got to sleep, the sun rose, the cockadoodles cock-a-doodle-doo. Yep. They had some chickens back at the house, so at least had an idea of the way back home. And he ventured back, following the sounds of the chickens. He had one big chicken named Henrietta, and Boris. Boris was the female chicken, and Henrietta was the cock, because the male chickens are called cocks. And as he ventured back, thinking that Henrietta and I've already forgot the name. As you can tell, I'm tired, but I'm just going to carry on. As he walked back to his cock, he started to recognize the forest around him, and was wondering what would happen, because he would have heard his father. He would have come for me, right? Ronald was thinking. I was shouting pretty loudly. Pretty much most of the forest must have heard me. Probably woke up a few hibernating animals. And he saw the opening into the area where his house was, and was wondering why the fire was on. And then that worry just disappeared as he was wondering, oh, it's probably Dad. I'm gonna get in, he's gonna make a fool of me, and tell me that I'm an over-worrying fuck, but Ronald is just gonna pretend that he went out for a little hunt of his own, and go in and tell his dad that he had a wonderful night of hunting many animals, but they were just all a little too fast for him. So he ran to the door and opened it, shouting, "McDonald, I have returned." To his surprise, his dad was there with a cake, and he shouted back, "Happy birthday." It's one of those stories that at the end of the day, it's all one big worry. It was a surprise party McDonald had organised, but Ronald kind of chucked it all away because he thought his dad was never going to return. And let's be honest, most of the people around here would do the same. Or you would be closing your eyes, falling asleep, and forgetting about it all just to wake up to the cake. McDonald spent a lot of time making sure that he could get all the stuff to make a very delicious Victoria sponge cake. It's very difficult getting jam because you need to get the right berries. He didn't want to poison his son, of course. Now, I can tell that some of you might be being the same as Ronald in the story, and having every little thing around you causing you an issue to sleep, but who knows, maybe tomorrow there'll be a cake waiting for you too, and you can just fall asleep, closing your eyes, dreaming of cake. Yes, cake. For me, I'm dreaming of noodles. But then again, it's really easy for me to get noodles, so I'm never complaining about that. I have a pot noodle in front of me waiting for me. I hope that all of you have a wonderful night. I think I'm gonna fucking choke. There's a noodle stuck in my throat. There we go. And sweet dreams from SleepyBoi to you.